Good evening, judges, timekeeper and moderator, esteemed opponents, and the lovely audience online and on land. My name is Kaylin Bonet. I am studying cybersecurity at 2 at Western Pacific University, and I am the final speaker of the opposing team. Today, we've heard a proposition that suggests that Papua New Guinea should use its potential grey listing as leverage to drive sweeping domestic anti-corruption and financial reforms despite its economic and social costs. But let us be clear, grey listing is not a strategic tool or a leverage, it's a warning label. It is the international community telling us that we have failed to meet basic standards of financial integrity. Let me put it this way. It's like throwing yourself into the deep ocean without a life jacket just to force yourself to learn how to swim. Chances are, you won't swim, you'll drown. Now, before I summarize my team's stance, provide recommendations and conclude, I would like to respectfully rebut a few points mentioned by the affirmative. The first speaker of the affirmative mentioned using grey listing as leverage. However, the question poses, why wait? It's like a smoke addict who had all the time to choose to stop smoking. However, they get sick and finally diagnosed with lung cancer. They know smoking can lead to lung cancer, but yet they still smoke. Ladies and gentlemen, we cannot wait until we are grey listed to do something about corruption. The second speaker stated, and I quote, "It is imminent and it will still happen." I would like to rebut that this is not the first time Papua New Guinea has been grey listed. According to NRI 2022, Papua New Guinea has been was grey listed in 2014 and exited in 2016. We exited based on policies that we wrote, that we published to mitigate this. Ladies and gentlemen, the affirmative wants to use this grey listing period as a call to action. However, policies have already been made. This call to action is late. This call to action is invalid. We could have done something to mitigate this. The third speaker of the affirmative mentioned that Papua New Guinea has to be accountable and to take accountability. However, take into account that Papua New Guinea is a developing country. There are so many factors that make it difficult to quickly implement systems, and opportunists use this to conduct schemes such as money laundering. Papua New Guinea was grey listed. There were policies. Why didn't these policies work? And why wait till another flagging to call for action? The final speaker of the affirmative mentioned, and I quote, "Being grey listed is not permanent." I will still highlight this and I will still emphasize it has already happened. It could have been mitigated, and yet the affirmative still calls for action. We are still calling for action. Ladies and gentlemen, in 2014, there was a call to action, and here we are with another call to action. Ladies and gentlemen and adjudicators, the affirmative stressed on a call to action. However, this call to action is late. We agree that corruption is bad, but we cannot wait until we are being flagged to address these issues. On to my team's summary. As outlined by our first speaker, we have defined key terms to ensure clarity and precision. She defined grey listing, leverage, and costs. Let me walk you through these definitions. According to what is grey listing? According to post